Hey everyone, JP here from the Biz Dojo. Just want to let you know about Newsly. It's an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about some of the most trending topics, and then it reads them to you in a natural human voice. Much like this beautiful voice right here. Anyways, for the first time in the history of the internet, the web is listenable. You can browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. So stop scrolling, just start listening. And they have podcasts too, so you can listen to us there, as well as a whole bunch of other podcasts from over 40 countries. So check it out. Download Newsly from newsly.me, or just click the link in the description for the podcast and use promo code B1Z2021. That'll get you a month free premium description. Nothing like it. Check it out. Newsly.me.
This episode is powered by Airdrie DQ Grill and Chill, owned and operated by local entrepreneurs. Check out one of their 3 Airdrie locations today and pick up a blizzard, ice cream cake, or dilly bar. The Biz Dojo is also brought to you by Beyond a Beaten Path. If you're on the lookout for a personalized gift, head to beyondabeatenpath.ca and get started on your custom creation. Beyond a Beaten Path. Personalize it, because everything else is boring.
So, 1 year ago tomorrow, 2 young lads ventured into the forest.
I like that this starts with young lads.
We were younger.
It's fair.
It was a forest filled with other podcasts, I guess. I don't know. The metaphor starts to fall apart pretty quickly, but
it's been a good year. In the forest filled with podcasts.
We went in with a machete and a water bottle, and we have been cutting a trail through the forest for the last year.
A machete and a water bottle. We were well prepared for this venture.
I would say that's about how prepared we were. I don't know.
I feel like we had a specific set of skills.
Okay, so we had a compass.
And machete, ambitions.
Machete being the microphone and a water bottle being an internet connection. And here we are. What's your favorite memory? Or I don't know, favorite memory. What's the first memory that comes to mind of the last year?
Half of the memories that come to mind is actually the stuff that doesn't necessarily make it to air. We've had a couple of recordings where we've cry laughed our way out, and those come to mind pretty quickly.
I think I agree with you. I've never cry laughed this much in my adult life than in the last year. So
we could probably do an entire separate pod of like where we tried to be serious, but it just didn't work. Yeah.
Darren McGinty was, I think, the biggest laugh.
No, the Vaseline eyeballs was your loud eyeballs is
my loud eyeballs. That's a real problem. I forgot about that.
All that blinking, keeping people awake.
I think a nice second. So first, cry laughing. Close second has been all the people that we've met between, guests, fans, just everybody. Like
there's family members that I haven't really been that close with, like distant family members, not like, my brother or anything, but there's been some family members who I've started talking to a lot more often recently because of the show, which is pretty amazing too.
Yeah. And I mean, it's almost like I tried sitting there one day and just thinking of all the people that we've met and then the people we've met through the people we've met. And it's like a big spider web right now.
It's like a network of sorts.
And I know we don't do our top 3 lists anymore. We retired the podium for now. But what would you put for the third thing to bring it home?
I would probably say the random learnings.
Yes.
There's been so many, I will call them aha moments.
Paradigm shifts even?
No, I like aha moments because it makes me think of Take On Me. So I will go with aha moments. But no, there's just been so many of them where often from people I did not think were going to bring that to the table in the moment. So some of them are a surprise. Some of them are just like weird random facts about chicken in Louisiana from Nicole and Francine, or like weird things like that. But there's been so many things that I've taken away from, especially from, I would say this season in particular. We've shifted the focus of the show a little bit, so we get to those a lot more often. But they've all been pretty amazing.
Yeah, one that always sticks in my head actually is Destinationitis, that with Jason.
Yes,
I think of that one a lot.
Do you ever use it on your kids when you're driving somewhere? Are we there yet? You have destination actors.
This weekend when we go to Wainwright, I'm busting that out.
Just enjoy the journey.
So I think this week we kind of got back to our roots a little bit. Like you mentioned, we've kind of pivoted, we've evolved and grown. But this week we had Sean Mills, who I've known for many years, but sort of arm's length, like not super close friends, but we've known each other, and really interesting background, very entrepreneurial, a serial entrepreneur as it were. And it was kind of cool just jamming with him in the dojo.
We definitely centered around golf and how horrible our golf game was for a while.
I'm bad at golf. It's not my thing.
It's I used to work at a golf course, and
me too.
I golfed briefly. Like every day. We had like the same lives that occurred.
I know. We could literally anyway.
But I used to golf every day, and it's funny how good you get at something when you do it every day. Mm-hmm. And how quickly it leaves you. But then people say it's like riding a bike. And I think we covered this with JD. Mm-hmm. Riding a bike is not that easy when you haven't done it for a long time and you try and jump back on one. Golf is no different. Entrepreneurship is no different. It's very difficult. You learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah. I think what I appreciated the most out of this conversation was just, I think Sean is very similar to us in how he thinks, and just constantly.
He worked in radio, and then he also worked at a golf course.
We, all those things. But he's always just looking for the next thing, and he's growing, and he's a self learner, which I really appreciate. And sort of brings me to sort of the question of the week. And maybe before we get to that, we ask our guests every week, what's next for them. And I don't know, what do you think's next for us as we look ahead to the next year of this whole deal?
I'm thinking a whole lot more conversations. In part because I know who's on our list coming up, and I think some of them are going to blow some people away. I'm certainly excited about what we have on the horizon, or the near horizon, near
horizon. Yeah. Sure.
But yeah, I think more of that. I think more of the personal development. Like we've just gone through so many changes ourselves, working on our coaching, working on the Biz Dojo as a business, not just a podcast, more than a podcast, one might say.
Hashtag.
TM. Yeah, I think there's a lot in our near future. What say you, good sir?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we want to start to figure out what are the components that surround the podcast that make it more than a podcast. So we're talking about doing a newsletter with some value add material. We've recently last week launched the first sub pod. Is that the right word? Sub pod? Yeah. Why not?
Sure. Sub pod.
The Biz Dojo presents Next Level Mindset morning coffee. So we're going to try some different things with that. And we've got talks underway with a couple other folks to maybe have a network of podcasts under the Biz Dojo. So I think we got a spiderweb network, whatever. So I think we got a lot of exciting things on the horizon, and I'm just open to wherever this leads with no destinationitis.
It's amazing what comes your way when you're open.
And maybe for a thought to ponder for everyone is what's next for you? We're heading into the final quarter of the year and 2022 on the horizon. What do you got planned? Welcome to the Biz Dojo with Seth and JP. This week, we are joined by Sean Mills. Sean, welcome to the dojo.
Thank you very much, guys. JP, Seth, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. So you and I kind of go way back. We actually, for a very brief moment in time, worked together / sort of ships passing in the night at Key 83 radio station, board hopping Oiler games.
Yeah, that was years and years ago. I actually had got a job there as an interest piece. I did a little bit of a work from school participation type kind of role, and learned about the radio industry. But early on, when I was in grade 11, I was looking like, I knew I didn't have a face for TV. So I went down the radio path, and I was actually engaged, and I was looking at signing up through that NATE program. So that was kind of my first taste in the radio business.
Yeah. So mine was similar because I moved to Wainwright in grade 12, and I think you must have been graduated already. What year did you graduate? 02?
2003.
2003. Did we graduate the same year? Were you at the Bless or?
I was at the Bless.
You were at the Bless. Okay. So we graduated same year, and it was Mr. Soretsky that got me on working at the radio station. I think it was Jeff Murray was sort of the guy then.
Yep. Jeff Murray was the guy. He was kind of the primary radio host. There was another gentleman. I can't remember his name. And then of course, Jeff Newland doing the new
Jeff and Jeff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, Vince Soretsky. What a guy. I really enjoy Vince.
He's a beauty for sure. So now that we've gone down memory lane and caught up, maybe just introduce yourself to the folks. Who's Sean Mills?
So so my name is Sean Mills. I'm originally born and raised in Wainwright and a proud community member of the Wainwright area. I live in Beaumont now, but I've worked inside of oil and gas and the golf business. I'm a PGA of Canada professional, and have started a number of different businesses, both inside the golf industry and out. Most of my career I spent working for large cap service companies. And more recently, within the last few years, I've kind of gone down the entrepreneurial road and kind of continued to develop a few businesses, one of which we have launched a website, and another one that we have just launched in the last 12 months here and are kind of continuing to pursue. So I'm a serial entrepreneur, as my friends and family would like to attest to. Not afraid of taking risk, but much calculated risks. And overall, just a general member of the community. Play golf, been involved in hockey for a number of years, and just kind of have a large social network just due to being a little bit more of the happy-go-lucky guy. I'm always looking for the positive in any situation. So that's what you're going to find with me.
I feel like when you get into being an entrepreneur, you instantly become a serial entrepreneur. Like everyone I know that's an entrepreneur is either it's their first time or it's their 1,000th time doing something entrepreneurial.
Well, I think like when you talk about the 1,000th time, you have to try things 1,000 times before you kind of find the root of a few different successes. And it really takes the courage to take that step in being uncomfortable, because being an entrepreneur is super uncomfortable. You're in situations with people that you don't know, with businesses that are maybe don't want to take your information to heart. And it can be challenging just to kind of get started. And that's the hardest part is you have to start. And you have to feel uncomfortable.
What was your first entrepreneurial venture? What was that first passion that got you started?
Oh, geez. I think my first entrepreneurial venture, I guess if we want to go right back to it, I used to be a ball spotter for the Wainwright Oilmans when I was like 12 years old. And it used to be an event because you could make a few bucks, right? Spotting balls and kind of just generally be outgoing. But I started to sell golf balls that I found in the bush to some of the oilmen, and during these times too, like you got more profitable later in the afternoon. I'll put it to you that way. But I think like kind of beyond that, I've been working, like I've had a job and I've been working and employed since I was 14 years old. So always in a customer service base, always people facing. So I think in terms of like an entrepreneurial spirit, it's more the sales spirit. I enjoy having a product and having something that's available for somebody to purchase. And just, the golden rule in whether it be an entrepreneurship or sales is that people buy from people. So you put that face forward. And I think that's always been a skill set of mine that I've really enjoyed, but that's really what it is. I just enjoy the rush of the sales, and I enjoy meeting new people and creating relationships.
One of the things that fascinates me, there's many things that fascinate me, as JP is well known at this point, but particularly around skills that you develop through sport that then apply in business and particular entrepreneurship. And being a golf pro, like my head goes to patience and like having a strong mind and all the things that would be required to become a golf pro. If you kind of reflect on that for a minute, are there a couple of key skills from that journey that you've been able to apply to your entrepreneurial ventures?
Well, certainly. And I think that like being a golf professional, a lot of times that you can take it two ways. There's professional golfers and there's golf professionals. So the game is incredibly difficult. It's very individual. It's very mental based. There is ebbs and flows of your emotions. So if it's any takeaway that I've learned from professional golf, and whether it be playing in tournaments or being in situations where you're teaching, where you're teaching a group of people or individuals, is kind of maintaining a level of emotional intelligence where you can reflect and take the challenge and the difficulty and the frustration from either your participants or just the situation at hand, and being able to remain calm and still kind of reside with a level of decision making that's functional for the situation. So I think the easiest relation is that they're both just so difficult to succeed in, and then just having the fervor to kind of continue to pursue it no matter the situation. You have to take the positives out of situations. I mean, personally, as a golfer, whether it be in high level amateur golf or even kind of dabbling in professional golf, I've been in situations where I've had a comfortable ability to maybe win a tournament or win a highly ranking tournament, and it never really got the job done. But what I did take from it is the experience, and then you apply that experience down the road. And I think that's equivalent in business, that for every positive experience you have, you lose more often than you win. And I think that's something that you can take from golf.
I think for me, golf is just different than the other sports. Like, I feel like in golf, you make 80 to 100 very distinct decisions. Okay, for me, 80 to 130 very distinct decisions over the course of your game. Whereas in something like hockey, like you're making a decision, but you're making them in such rapid succession that they're not always affecting the next decision. But golf always is affecting that next decision. So I really feel like in golf, you can get inside your head a lot quicker. Like if your first shot off the tee is not good, your whole game could be gone. In hockey, like if your first shot misses the net, you're like, oh, gonna have to dial that in. That's not a problem. Or like baseball, you strike out your first at bat, not a big deal. You'll have some more. You'll be good.
Agreed. And I think that there's relationships to be taken from both golf, hockey, team sports. One thing that I found, and one thing I've learned over my career, if we're talking specifically about golf and the comparisons to if you look at really elite hockey players, and I've been fortunate enough also having a relationship with Adam Huxley and just some of his pupils kind of through the years, is that elite hockey players are able to make decisions that are not right now. They're decisions that are going to affect the anticipation of what happens in the future. And golf is very much the same thing, where if you look at it from a point of view where you're just trying to make this shot right now just to get it from point A to point B, it's more of a chess game than that. It's looking at where do I need to get to finish the hole out. So if you're just looking at a par 4, for example, there's a fairway and there's a green, and there's usually 2 shots in between you and there. So when you factor in the probabilities of, if I can get it into somewhat of this general area based on how that I miss, and then getting it into this secondary general area based on how that I miss onto the green, your percentage chances increase of the ability to score well. And that's just anticipation. So thinking about it more of like a chess match versus just a very difficult present situation, then you can reduce your stress. You know that every shot's not going to be perfect, but the good ones are going to be that much better. And that's just what the most elite professional athletes, whether it be in Olympians or individual sports such as golf or team sports such as hockey, is their anticipation to make those decisions is less stress on them, because they're anticipating kind of what the result of that might be. And if you kind of relate that to our experience as entrepreneurs or as business people, that's the whole kind of enlightenment of what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to accomplish the problem that you're trying to solve. Well, what are the steps that can be taken to reduce the amount of stress on myself personally, or just on the situation, to allow me to succeed?
I'm just worried about the people on the other fairways, to be honest. Like, I can hit the fairway. It's just not the one that I'm aiming at.
Yeah. There's a few courses that I've played where you could probably wear a helmet. That's for sure. And obviously, like, I mean, being a social kind of atmosphere that I've been in a lot, I've seen some really good misses, put it that way.
I worked at a golf course for a number of years, and at one point I got my handicap way down. I think I was at like an 8 or a 9, and I was golfing with the club pro every day, and it was great. And then, a couple of years of not golfing with a club pro, and that 8 or 9 turns into an 80 or 90. And
oh yeah,
it's amazing how fast it leaves you.
For sure. And you find too, like, after you leave it for a while, the first couple rounds, you surprise yourself. You're like, oh, wow, I can do this again, and I can do it well. And then you start to think about what you're doing, and then it completely falls apart.
It's the tee. It's always the tee that screws me up.
Yeah.
That's what killed me. I haven't gone golfing in a couple of years, but the last time I went out, I was like, man, I am good at golf. And I probably had like 5-6 holes that were like I was putting for par and, kind of fell apart, but I was feeling good. And then the back nine, I just couldn't do anything. And I think it was that point right that you made there, Sean. Like I just started thinking about it and then it was over. And part of me, as we relate that back to business and entrepreneurship, I think a lot of times as leaders or entrepreneurs, we think we need to be right all the time, right? Like you can't make a mistake or the world's going to fall apart. And one of a quote I heard at a leadership conference one time is like the best baseball players in the world bat 350, right? So they're still missing 7 out of every 10 and they just get back up and they do the best they can the next at bat. And as entrepreneurs and leaders, like what's a good batting average on your decision-making through the day? I don't know what the answer is to that, but I feel like if I bat 400 for the day on, making a good sound decision, and that if you can do that over the course of a year or a season, you'll end up in a pretty good place.
100%. And I think that's kind of the transparency of the decision making too. Is that just knowing whether you're right or wrong is sort of irrelevant as long as you're making the decision at that point in time, at that singular point in time, that allows you to feel comfortable about what the future looks like, and whether you change your mind entirely is kind of not the point. It's whether you have assessed the situation into a level of probability that's going to be successful for yourself. And if it isn't, then you've learned something. And I think that's something that's important is like, even to look at your own life, the amount of times that you've done something incorrectly or offside or wrong, but that you've learned from and changed your kind of present and future. I mean, that's personal growth in a nutshell, I think.
I mean, if you think about it, how often do you actually have all the information in anything, right? So I think that's part of being an entrepreneur or a leader or just a person. Take as much information as you can get and make a decision and move forward. And then good, bad, or otherwise, learn and grow and keep developing. Like I don't know if that's a secret to life, but it's got to be pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely impactful. It's an impactful way but I think that even for you guys with the podcast, I mean, it's something that you reflect on what, what's the best path forward? We don't actually know, but we're going to go down this road and see where it takes us.
Well, and keep trying new things. And I think that's one of the things that, that inspires me about your story and your journey is you've been kind of, I don't want to say all over the map, but, oil and gas, golf, just in life, like you're willing to kind of get out there and try different things. And I think it's super cool to see, you're taking all your learnings from, being a professional golfer, from being in oil and gas, and now applying it to these new ventures that you have. And maybe it's a good time to dive into that. FTR, like I've got this screen up right now next to me with this beautiful looking golf cart. What was the inspiration to go down this road and how's it been going so far?
It's kind of funny. Like the inspiration to start it was really me and my business partner were golfing and we were playing at a course and we were in a rental cart and we played 11 holes and the rental cart was dead. And not only was it dead, there was no, it's 2021 or 2020 at the time. There's no phone charger on there. There's no real consumer-based excitement when you get in the golf car. And when you're playing on a day that takes forever, I mean, sometimes in certain places, golf takes a long time. So basically the impact that we had is that in my experience, working in manufacturing and on supply chain and logistics was, can we make a better product or has anybody tried? So that was step one. And I think like when you look at it from what is the value that you're trying to create or what is the problem that you're trying to solve? We just felt like there was an opportunity where there's literally only 3 major manufacturers of golf carts in North America. So you have 3 options when you look at it. So we just looked down the road of, can we create a 4th option and something that's Canadian that we could maybe potentially, generate some revenue off of, create some jobs. But what we did is we took that problem and then we expanded it a little bit further. And we looked at what technology is out in the marketplace worldwide, not just in North America, but worldwide that's available. So what we ended up with through our discovery process is that we found, okay, the world's pushing towards more of a lithium ion based battery because it's you're getting more energy with less density or with more density in the battery. So less space needs to be taken up for how long that battery can work. Well, that's a problem that we solved because we had to get our cart replaced after 12 holes in the middle of summer or in the middle of the spring. So this was the beginning of the season. So we knew like the challenge is that, well, from a golf course perspective, you just can't have electric cars that are, you just can't have electric cars that are going to be quitting on their customers. I mean, you're paying $25 to $30 just for the cart rental, right? So in terms of how people would view that, there's a perception base there that we could probably improve that on. And then we looked at a couple of things like some technology things just for the customer experience. So high quality seats. Is there the ability to charge your phones? Can you listen to tunes? So we have a full Bluetooth connection in there with stereo that's built right into the car as a stock standard. But then we looked at it from a point of view, okay, well, if we can take in a lithium battery, has anybody ever tried to put a solar panel on the roof to see what the extended range might look like? And FTR is really its future, less the valves. But we believe we have some technology that we're working on with the University of Alberta, and we have a couple of different partnerships that are underway to kind of continue on that technology development. But what we're trying to do is take a golf car and solve a problem operationally from the golf course, solve a problem potentially environmentally from the carbon footprint of gas cars and the waste off of lead acid batteries that need to be replaced every 2 seasons, and create a longer running car. And we've kind of found through the discovery process that we may be onto something. So we built a prototype and we got it tested, and we did some testing on our own. And our prototype is actually right now at the University of Alberta. But that's kind of the genesis of what we were doing, is that just with industry experience and being coached and being on teams historically through our careers, we just took bits and pieces from each one of those experiences and applied it to ourselves individually. And Garrett Fraser and myself, we have a good mix of skill set where we thought, geez, we can really create a business out of this.
Well, I'm inspired. I mean, and if you haven't, which I'm sure most of you haven't, because we're just having Sean on now, but ftrgolf.com, like, it is a really aesthetically pleasing golf cart.
It is, and that's honestly, that's the most important part. I mean, you could build a golf car that would be functionally the same, but aesthetically, I mean, I'm kind of picky, so like I would want to be the one. I would want to drive this thing. So the roof is actually we have a partner company that we had found and we've been working with for the last year out of Denmark, called Solar Drive, and they've tried this principle on cars where you basically add the roof to it. But we are the only manufacturer in the world that stipulates as a stock and a standard that our car comes with the solar panel roof as a solar assist, and it does a number of things that we through the discovery process thought was really neat. So when you look at lithium batteries, the biggest downfall of lithium batteries in terms of, yes, they have a lot of charge cycles, but if those charge cycles are from 0 to 100 over the course of its lifespan, if you can trickle charge, or you have some sort of charge to keep that battery a little bit more on the high end of its battery range, it actually increases the longevity. So when you talk about if a battery would last, say, 5 to 6 years, we're now doing studies on if during course operation throughout a day, do you even have to plug the golf cart in at all? Which, as of right now, you don't. But what is the impact on that from an energy savings point of view? So we're looking at, from, if you're a course operator and you have a fleet of 80 cars, typically, those cars that we were driving into that were dying throughout the day, they have to be plugged in most all parts of the day just to be able to functionally run. And the only times that they're not plugged in is when they're not, or is when they're being utilized. So conceptually, we were looking at what is the energy reduction overall by not having to plug the car in at all. And then if you're charging at the end of the day on non-peak hours for 40% of the battery instead of 100%, 2 full cycles throughout the day, what does that look like? What is the carbon footprint reduction? What is the energy reduction on the cost point of view? So we're thinking about it not necessarily just as, hey, we have an aesthetically pleasing car. That's just a bonus that allowed us to kind of continue on down the road to be able to kind of find the genesis of what FTR means.
Do you look at the private market at all? Like, I know you're focused towards the golf club golf clubs. But do you look at the private market? Because there's so many people, especially those who live around golf clubs, who have their own golf cart, and they just purchase the old stuff from the golf club that's just trying to get rid of an old car. But are you also looking at that market when you're looking at features and whatnot?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, actually we do. Like, as of right now, we have our first 55 cars being built and tested. We'll be kind of ready for delivery late October. But the first cars that we've built are for individuals. So we have 2-seaters, which are the golf cars, and then we also have the 4-seaters. So the golf car with the 2 seats facing rearward. So we have those available. Yeah, but that's a huge market in Western Canada, not only from just people who are camping or in campgrounds or lake communities, but also for places like Wainwright and East Central Alberta, where people can have their own cart and they can drive it on the course, and in some ways they can drive it home too.
One of the things you mentioned there, Sean, that piqued my interest was around your business partnership. And this is something we've talked about on the show quite a bit in terms of when you're going into business. It is key to, if you're going to have a business partner, it's really key to have complementary skill sets. And I think, JP, that's something you and I have found. I have 100 ideas that I throw at the wall every day, and JP kind of tempers the enthusiasm, and we balance each other very well. I know the boys from Shoot Your Shot, Parker and Ambrose. They kind of had a similar dynamic.
Yep.
Just kind of curious for you and Garrett, how did you know that was going to be a good business partnership, and what kind of complementary skills do you guys have?
Well, Garrett and I have had a longstanding relationship, both from work. Like, we've worked together. When he moved to Wainwright, I worked for him as a teenager, so I'm sure that was quite the experience for him. But I think what we found is that we found when we built the driving range. So Garrett and I both own a driving range on Garrett's land that's situated in between Arm Lake and Clear Lake, just outside of Edgerton, which is kind of our genesis of our very first entrepreneurial business. It's Big Buck Golf. So we've worked together for probably 7 or 8 years. But the one thing that I would say that what meshes us together between Garrett and myself is he is much more analytically and detail-oriented driven, where I am more business optics and operations of logistics and the sales and the sales and marketing. So between the two of us, I mean, not to say that neither one of us don't have those skills, but that's in Garrett's career specifically. He's been involved in mass scale projects, infrastructure, project management, and a little bit of like political type environments, where myself, I've always been customer facing in an account management type position, whether it be large scale contracts or one-off sales. I think that our business knowledge together that we've shared over the years allowed us to challenge each other, but in a professional setting. I mean, we are really good friends and best friends. He was the best man at my wedding. But what allows us to kind of continue that relationship without there being like fluff, like without being like, yeah, you're the best and you're great and like keep doing this. We actually challenge each other more often than we we always support each other, but we're not afraid to challenge each other in a professional setting. We can separate business from friendship. Like, we've had some heated discussions in business, and then turned it off, played a round of golf, had a beer, and just had an enjoyable rest of the weekend. Right. So I think that that's one thing about emotional intelligence that you learn kind of throughout your career, is that at work, you have to take work as work. And then in your personal life, you need to enjoy your life. We're not here for that long. So I think that's our best match, is that we have kind of similar personalities, where he's a little bit more intense than I am, and I'm a little bit more easygoing. But we can also flip that around, where situationally, he's a little bit more easygoing and I'm a little bit more intense when I need to be. So I think that's the good combination that we have, is that, and not only that, we've been doing this we've been working together on different projects and entrepreneurial projects for 7 or 8 years now.
I thought that was an interesting component. I don't know if you remember, JP, but Parker and Ambrose talking about how they were line mates in midget AAA, and that just creates a certain dynamic between each other of like accountability when you're line mates, and how that's sort of carried over into running a business together. So I mean, I could see the, again, linkage between playing a sport together and being able to have those like totally transparent, we'll call it tough conversations, just like no fluff, no bullshit. Like we're gonna solve this problem together, and without it becoming like a personal thing. And now, like, I feel like flipping the question on JP, like, what do you think our complementary skills are? Since I described them, but I mean, now I'm just curious what your take is.
Well, I think that we're both open to possibilities. Like, it's one of the neat things about the podcast is we've both worked in radio, but podcasting is a totally different world. So we both have our ideas, and they're very clear ideas, I think, and they're like I said, complementary, but they're not the same. I don't think. I think we both have kind of a different idea of the branches that we can go down, and we temper that for each other. And, you know, you do a good job of keeping me on track, just as I do a good job of keeping you on track. I think one of our risks is that we are both spaghetti at the wall type guys. Like, here's 1,000 ideas. I'm just going to throw them all and see what sticks.
Yeah.
Well, and in that vein, I know, Sean, you're a self-described idea guy. Do you have any examples of like a big idea that you had that totally didn't go anywhere, but like you felt in the moment was like your best idea ever? Totally putting you on the spot there, but
yeah, I've just had so many shitty ideas over the years that like I couldn't pinpoint it on one. You know, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm sure that there's one out there. If you think of it, I'll definitely bring it up. But it's a good kind of segue into, well, what is a good idea versus what's a bad idea, right? Or is there such a thing as a bad idea? But there's probably great ideas out there that just functionally don't make any business sense when you kind of break it down, right? Yeah, and so, I always look at a business idea in terms of, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the value triad or the value triangle. So the value triad basically stipulates, does this product or service allow for the consumer? So whether it be a business purchasing it, we'll just use that as an example. If a business is purchasing this product or service, does it allow for them to have a revenue gain? Does it create some sort of emotional gain for them or their customers, or does it reduce their costs overall? So all of which equate to further business or further profitability, no matter how you look at it, right? And I think that, if you're looking at a product, like a singular product that a consumer is buying, more often than not, there is some sort of emotional gain that's attached to it that allows to make their life easier, or they just like it, right? And then so from the business point of view, when you're from a business selling to a business, there's got to be either a cost reduction, a revenue gain, or it has to kind of make their overall, their consumers or their particular people that buy from them have some sort of emotional gain too. So when you break down what's a good idea or what's a bad idea, I think you can start with that and just answer those three questions. And if it doesn't fit into any of them, then maybe tuck it aside and kind of rethink about what that product or service might be. But and if you do find something that allows 1, 2, or 3 of the above, then you're onto something, right? And then so by creating that value triad, can you generate revenue from that? And can you generate revenue from that is like, would somebody buy it? Which is fine, but anybody can buy something. But if you don't know your costs associated with selling that product, a lot of times when people or entrepreneurs get into a situation where they have a great idea or they have a great product or they have something that they want to add, you don't truly understand your cost position because it's not just the product. The product is just the overall revenue generator, but there's logistics, there's transport, there's shipping things back and forth, there's your time. A lot of people and entrepreneurs that I know that have been either successful or unsuccessful at one point did something for free because they thought to themselves, well, oh shit, I got to pay myself too. Like I'm spending hours on this. And that's the difference between entrepreneurs and somebody who has a job is that when you go to work every day, you're making $200 or $300 or whatever your net kind of revenue gain on that day is. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to kind of succeed to try and make whatever it is that's profitable. And that's the thing is that not only on the revenue side, so you get paid for something. If you get paid for a service or a product, there's tax implications, there's cost implications. So if for every dollar that you make, you don't actually make a dollar. And so if that's one thing for future entrepreneurs or people that are listening to this, that when they understand that where they have a business idea, you have to understand that you have to know your cost position better than you have to know what your revenue potential is.
I think that's where a lot of people get stuck because it's pretty easy to do some, we'll call it bar napkin math and be like, oh, I could sell 1,000 of these and make $1 million.
Yeah.
But when you get into the details and, start calculating EBITDA and cash flow and, some of those more basic business metrics, a lot of people, I would say, skip a lot of the unknowns because they don't know, right? You've never run a business before. So all those different tax implications or those little costs that aggregate up into big numbers, all of a sudden you get into it and it's like, oh shit, like I thought my margin was going to be like 45% and it's actually like 20. But what advice do you have to people to like really kind of know what you're getting into before you go all in on a business based on your experience?
Well, I mean, you have to have self-awareness, right? And you have to have self-awareness on like what, I think, and it is funny because I think about my life as a business, in a certain sense, is like, how much does it cost me to live? How much does it cost for my lifestyle to basically continue? Whether it be I like to golf or I like to, like my wife and I love to travel. So I have a yearly and 5-year. I can run 5 years out on what my costs are as a person, as an individual, and some of the goals that I'm having achieve are kind of ancillary to that. So if that's one thing I can take is understand how much your month to month or week to week. Typically, a month is probably good, but month over month throughout the course of a year on the ebbs and flows of cash in and out, how much cash do you need to survive? So that's one. And that's basically a base start to, if you can generate revenue and know what your cost is, then you know how many products, if you're an individual, you know how much you have to sell to be able to generate a profit. So if that's one thing, just know your costs even individually. Secondary to that is I encourage people, we're so lucky in this generation between podcasts and YouTube and all of these and the internet, just in general. Like if you wanted to search something, like you could search, what is a balance sheet? And you have thousands of entries from both universities and videos and such. So, and when I talk about being self-taught is over the past decade, I just remember a situation where I was a young guy. I was 24 years old. I was in a sales meeting with all these people from all over, and we started breaking down our business and kind of what goes into it. And I wasn't lost, but I was so enamored with how many different things go into just getting us to be able to get this product to a customer's site. And so my encouragement is that if you enjoy entrepreneurship, just enjoy business, like learn what a business is, what is all of these things. And what I started to do just individually, and this helped me with my investing as a person, but I took 25 of my favorite industries or companies, within like things that I buy. So like I looked at, okay, I have an Apple phone. All of Apple's information is public every quarter. So I started to kind of read the quarterly statements and just try and understand, like, I don't even know what any of this is. This is complete gibberish. But then you do that for 25 different things that you really enjoy. Could be 10, could be 25, but you're going to start to notice trends on, how many different variances go into that. And then you just become a fan. You become a fan of certain companies. You become a fan of certain businesses. And then on top of that, what I found is that, we're very fortunate being from Wainwright that the community is as welcoming as it is to entrepreneurs or people. But in my personal life, people who own businesses, I try not to probe them too much, but I interview them. I discuss with them, like, what are their challenges? You learn more from a half an hour meeting with somebody who owns a business about whether they enjoy it or not, or like how they got to where they got to. To me, that's, those are some of the things that you can do, that there's just so much information available.
JP, when you started that, what was your first venture? AntiSec, yes.
The anti-security company.
Yes. So JP's first entrepreneurial adventure was providing anti-security resources to his boss. Maybe you can explain it, JP, but I'm curious.
Well, it was really like I was a security guard and I was just constantly looking at a location and thinking, man, I could easily break in here. Like, it would not just because I'm a security guard, because if I was just an average person and I objectively looked at this location, sure, there's a security guard sitting over by that fence, but there's a giant hole in your back fence. Like, we need someone to come around who looks at it from a thief's point of view, not a security consultant's point of view, and provide you some insight on how they might break into your building or your yard or whatever the case may be. So therein, AntiSec was born as an anti-security company. And, my security bosses had some interest in that perspective. Not that I have it, like, I feel like the only thing I had stolen was like a penny candy from a 7-Eleven back when penny candies were a thing, and it was probably completely unintentional.
But the reason I brought that up is, did you have any resources to like build a business plan, or was this just like
my business plan was purely, hey, look, I could break into this building.
And so you convinced your boss to give you $300 to tell him that, and then that was the end of it.
Well, anyway. Kind of, yeah. Hey, it worked. I had a client, but where I lacked was, the ability or desire to really go out and walk the beat and try and get more clients involved. That's where it failed for me.
That's the grind, though, of being an entrepreneur.
Hey, thanks for calling the Biz Dojo. What can we do for you?
Yeah, hi. I was wondering if I could order some coffee, please.
Oh, of course. Were you looking for the Master's Medium Roast or maybe some Dojo Dark Roast?
Oh, yeah, I'll take some of each. Oh, shoot, hold on a sec. Yeah, what can I get for you? So, venti, soy, tazo, chai, latte. Coming right up. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll take a Master's Medium and a Dojo Dark. They're so good. Best coffee I've ever had by a long shot.
Aw, thank you. Well, we'll get that order out to you right away.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Bill, what did I say about being on your phone while working?
I gotta get back to work.
Get back to the register. We got a lineup. We're running out of venti cups.
If you're looking for a great cup of coffee, save your bucks and reach for the star. Biz Dojo brand coffee. We're ethically sourced and Canadian roasted, so you can be sure that it's going to be an incredible taste. Just send an email to coffee@thebizdojo.com and we'll get you started.
Hello, this is Erin Evans from the Erin Evans Podcast, and you are listening to the Biz Dojo.
I think a good segue into this week's question from Mama Seth, who is actually a entrepreneur and has a business in Wainwright, Beyond a Beaten Path.
Oh,
and yeah. So, nice segue from what we were just talking about. But her question is, as a small business owner, always looking for tips and tricks on how to scale our business, given your experience in this area. And I know, Sean, I kind of mentioned to her that you've, that's sort of your background, whether it was in oil and gas or in your entrepreneurial ventures, growing businesses as part of what you do. So what do you have a couple, 2 or 3 tips or tricks to a small business on scaling up?
Well, I think immediately the first thing that would come to mind is your business able to go online? And is there products in your store that you can create a store online to be able to sell those products outside of your kind of call it your municipal district? So as soon as you have the ability, when you talk about scaling is just generally, can I increase my sales? And by increasing your sales, you have to look at it from a number of different views. One, do I have the right products? So do you do a regular, quarterly inventory of, or just a walk around of your store and notice things that are selling versus not selling? And one thing that you'll notice is that you'll probably take a few products, and if there's any way to get rid of them and turn them into cash, then cash is king. So if it's one thing that let's start there. Let's start with the current products that you have available to you in your store. Is there some of those slow moving products that you haven't sold in the last 6 months that you can just turn into cash? Because when you have inventory into cash, you don't have cash available to purchase new products. So that's one thing. And then the secondary thing to that is that, are you staying current with the products that you're selling? So if you're selling any products, whether it be in your store or, so let's just take Beyond a Beaten Path, for example, is there products in there that are non-current, or is there new products that are kind of on the cusp of what would be like a new idea? So what I mean by that is when your customers come into that store, do they have the ability to kind of have some sort of emotional gain from some sort of a new product? Do they like it? Oh, that's cool. That's neat. And is it as a price point that's functional, that if they were to go buy it online, are they paying a significant premium? Are they paying the same? Kind of what does that look like?
I actually just listened to this podcast on mass customization, which is kind of a new, like it used to be mass production, right? And, Henry Ford is quite known for his quote that you can have a Ford Model T in any color as long as it's black. And like over the years, we've slowly transitioned away from that into this sort of idea of mass customization. So users actually having the ability to go in and get exactly what they want. And I mean, Levi's is an example of that. You can go and buy custom jeans, and Coke is another one, like their vending machine game. I don't know if folks have seen it, but like the vending machines that have the syrup, and you actually build your own drink with some base flavors, and then you add your own. That's great for customization. But the interesting thing there that I think a lot of businesses need to do more of is the database that they get on their people who are ordering things. They know so much about like what's becoming popular flavors. What's the next big thing that we can kind of jump on the bandwagon for? What are some of the older products that maybe we should bring back? Who's using our products? Like they get daily reports from those machines now that give them an idea of who their consumer is and what they want.
Correct. And actually to expand on that, this is probably a good kind of point to touch on for us. So Garrett and I, with our Big Buck Golf business. It would have been 5 years ago now. So we basically had a relationship with 4 or 5 different small town community 9-hole courses. And one thing that we noticed is they didn't really have any products or services that they could offer inside of their pro shops. So we started a business where we supplied them with products, and we did a bit of profit sharing on just simple things like golf balls, hats, gloves, club brushes, and we offered them the ability to order clubs for their customers. So the problem that we had is that we had inventory that was scattered in a number of different places, and at the end of the season, the agreement was we would take it all back. But we didn't really have an avenue to kind of sell that product until the next season. And any of the non-current stuff we were able to send back. So that's, talking about non-current items. Are you able to send them back? And are you able to kind of expand on your potential there? So what we did is that we actually created bigbuckgolf.com, which is kind of we're one of a few. They're starting to become more of them, but bigbuckgolf.com is an online golf retailer. And I'll expand on a little bit of what you were saying, JP, with the customization, but we launched it at the end of January, and we had right away between February, March, and April was incredibly successful for us in terms of generating sales. There was a new place. We shipped direct to your door. You could get what you want. But one thing that we noticed is that we implemented a chat box in the bottom right-hand corner, which we're going to probably expand on more in this upcoming season. But the one thing that we learned is for the average golfer. So say if JP or Seth, if you guys wanted to buy a set of irons, the cost on the irons now is so high, like you're between $1,500 and $2,000. So to me, just that there's a bit of discomfort in buying something that if I want a different grip, or if I want different shafts, or if I wanted something specific to that, or I just had a general question about the product that I didn't that would maybe kind of put my mind at ease, call it. So we opened this chat box, and that chat box just talks to myself, Garrett Fraser, and another professional in Levi, which we hired as a general manager. So not only would you take the online golf retailer as a presence, we allowed the customization for people to kind of order specifically what they wanted. And we were very candid with them. Like we're in a COVID type environment right now, but so your shipping, you may be delayed on certain products that just might not be in stock. But really what it does is it created conversation. And then from that conversation, we have data, because it's on a web base, that we have data on everything that we sold. We have data on all their requests. We opened up the opportunity to have a when this product is back in stock button come in. And we noticed more so than anything, JP, to reflect on what you're saying, is that we noticed what people wanted to buy in the winter more than what they would buy in the summertime. Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, peak summer, July and August, was our 2 slowest months on the website.
Because people already have their stuff? Is that the...
Yeah, they already have
it into the pond yet.
Yeah, they already have their stuff, and people are pretty well generally happy. Most of the product is shipped. Well, and with the golf industry, much like a few others, the product was late for most of the season. But yeah, if you would have asked me, talking about making decisions, I would have said, hey, we should have more inventory in July. But what we learned along the way is that our position was, we learned so much on what people actually buy in the wintertime that.
So did you pivot your marketing strategy to match that then? Or I guess that's a work in progress?
We pivoted our capital outlay. So if we looked at overall, if we had to purchase supplementary products from July and August, well, it turned out that we didn't need to spend any money because we had a good chunk of those products available, but we just recognized from the traffic on the internet and the traffic from social media that what people were searching for in their carts and the abandoned carts and some of the things that people were looking at, there was just no necessity to outlay capital on something that might sell. So we kept that cash a little closer to ourselves. And then I guess the last part, just lastly, for Beyond a Beaten Path and your mom's question there, is there products and services within her industry that offer better terms than others? And by terms, I mean purchasing terms. So if you could get the same product very similarly and you're in a competing space for something that does the same job, is there a place that will offer you 60-day or 90-day terms to be able to manage your cash a little bit better so that you have an opportunity to sell that product and maybe commit to a little bit more of it, or even just test the waters with it, versus things that you have to pay cash outright for. And it's fascinating because on a retail level, some business owners know that, but some business owners do put cash out to buy things to put into their store. Whereas, asking the question and talking about terms with your vendors might be a valued discussion.
Well, those are great points. And I'm sure super helpful for Mama Seth to dive into. I think I'm always impressed. I know JP, she's done, well, there's the sign behind me. Like she does some unbelievable custom work. And if anything, I think it's a tricky spot because if she charged, like, I think it's art, right? Like they do a lot of custom crib boards that, yeah, you can go online and buy a crib board for $30, but she's building art pieces. And I don't know, I think she should be charging triple, but then it comes down to finding the right market and the people that are going to pay that, which is, it's a tricky balance. So
correct. And actually, just reflecting on that a little bit is that people can charge more, you're just going to sell less. So it's understanding if you're charging, if you're charging $10 for a widget and you're making $2 on it, if you want to charge $20 for that widget, well, you technically only need to sell 1 versus 5. So it's the ability of like, is there the ability to kind of slowly raise your prices for certain things, like art being one that's very specific because you're selling to that emotional part of the person where it catches their eye and they're willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. But I think you'd find that you can play around with that with certain products in that store or in that kind of particular area where people will pay more for certain things because they want them right now. Mm-hmm. I do not want to wait for this right now.
Well, they want it right now and they want it customized to your.
And they want that one.
Yeah, like exactly with my name on it, like right now.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned earlier, and something we're really passionate about, Sean, is community and surrounding yourself with great people and getting involved locally, in a variety of ways. And one of the people you mentioned off the top is a mutual friend, Adam Huxley, previous guest on the show. And I'm just curious for your take on what he has brought to the town of Wainwright, because I think, his life probably could have went any number of ways after he finished playing professional hockey, but to come back, get involved with the local junior B team, which has been amazing, but to sort of start Huxley conditioning and have all of these elite athletes, like a factory that he's got going. But, when I went there and saw what he was up to, like, it's so genuine and real. Like he legitimately is there to just help these kids get to the next level. And it's so inspiring and just kind of curious for your take on what that means to the community and what you think of it.
Yeah. And if it's one thing, like Hux and I have known each other for since we were teenagers. I've pretty well been to every city that he's played in, but like the one thing that I revere about Adam that I wish I had more of in myself is just his dire work ethic. And that work ethic is unapologetic. And it just speaks volumes to as an entrepreneur. I mean, he left professional hockey to come home for a variety of different reasons, but he basically started this business from scratch. And the thing that he created though within the community is that he created the ability to have kids who, didn't need to travel or didn't want to travel, who were elite athletes, but these kids got an education on training, regimen, nutrition. And when you see the person that is doing the training and kind of running that program lives by those laws, you start to kind of have a reverence for that type of person and you want to be that type of person. And I think that, Hux was also very fortunate to have some very good athletes that joined him. But those athletes, those athletes kind of had the ability to be at home in a comfortable environment and kind of continue to persevere and pursue their dreams. And by pursuing their dreams, they had to work their asses off. And if it's one thing about those kids in that gym and Hux's more elite players and some of the guys that I know, I mean, they give me inspiration. They give me inspiration to get in the gym and get working hard and kind of get my mental clarity back by form of exercise. And, it slips at times because I am me at the end of the day. But the thing is like, I don't have to look far for inspiration. And if it's one thing that's a caveat of having Adam in the town of Wainwright is that in that area in East Central Alberta, you don't have to look far for inspiration or somebody that you can look up to. And he had the ability to create a business out of it because he's very detail oriented. The thing is that when you go into that gym, there's structure in everything that you're doing that day. You're doing it for a reason. And that plan is stretched out. Like I just think about the summer plans, like that plan is stretched out all summer and you have to meet certain benchmarks. And if you don't meet those benchmarks, you're going to be behind. And when you're going to be behind as part of a peer group, you're going to get outworked. So it's creating competition and just generally speaking, like the number of athletes that have come out of East Central Alberta and probably will continue to
It's pretty outrageous.
It's pretty predominant. It just, it shines a light on the area from a media point of view. So there, you could argue there is a number of athletes that have come out of Wainwright or East Central Alberta just in general. So I always include Vermilion, Wainwright. I mean, you have to include Irma. Irma's the
center, the eye of the hurricane.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So basically, you take Irma and you draw a 100-kilometer radius, and then you include Lloydminster in that too. Like there has been some very good athletes come out of East Central Alberta, but it's shone a spotlight on kind of on our area, but it also from a point of view of like marketing those people. In the background, you always have Adam as a cheerleader that's marketing his players, not only because he can see their work ethic day over day, but because they're coming from his culture, and his culture is one that people respect. And that's enough pumping Adam's tires, that's for sure.
Well, but I mean, to your point, like I'm looking at his Instagram stories right now, and there's like 7 of them on there. Like shout out to Connor McLennan, shout out to Mason Shaw for his first NHL goal, Matthew Swanson. Like I don't even know how he's keeping track of all this stuff. He's got like 4 or 5 different games going at all times. He must to be able to, but he like, it just shows how much he really cares about his players.
Yeah. And I watch his stories every day. Like there's highlights on every one of those players every day.
Yeah.
Well, that's the challenge, right? When you become that successful, and all of a sudden you've got more and more and more people. Like I'm sure he's just got a basement full of TVs where every game is on, and he's just like scanning between them like he's running a TV broadcast company.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So shout out to Adam. We'll carve it off there. So Sean, what do you think the ceiling is for this whole FTR business? What are you guys after? What's your goal?
I mean, our goal is to create a Canadian product that has technological advances and some technology built into it that the world specifically hasn't seen. We're attempting to solve a problem that kind of most of North America knows exists, but is not as much talked about. But I think like, what is our goal? Our goal is to create a quality product, create some jobs, create a quality company with a good culture, and to kind of be successful in that. And I think that alone is kind of the root of our foundation. And then when you follow in behind that, what is the ceiling? I don't want to look that far ahead. I mean, I want to look far ahead as we have a business that's that can pivot and grow and is scalable. We built the system of creation of the product to be able to scale up as much as we need. The only challenges that we'll have to encompass would potentially be just supply chain related due to what's going on in world events and how COVID transpires and kind of what goes on there. But I think you still have to be humble, and you have to take it one day at a time. And, for me to say that I'm going to take over the world of the golf cart industry is a bit naive, but what we can do is we can make an honest effort, and we can put a good product out that we believe people will support, and any of the reviews that we've seen. And I invite you guys, if you're ever in the area, to come check out the shop, see exactly what it is, what you're doing, what we're doing. The product kind of speaks for itself, but we're passionate about the technology. We're passionate about the difference that we can make. We're passionate about the pressure that we can take off of the infrastructure of the power grid, and how it can benefit the end users.
So you've got a laundry list of things going on right now.
Yeah.
How do you make time for yourself, and what are you working on for yourself right now?
I separate golf. I separate my business life from my work very effectively. I have a very supportive wife. She's the best. But as much as she's supportive, I owe it to her to kind of give her my time and my efforts. And, we're trying to start a family, and we're going down that road, but I'm lucky because I have such a good social network of people that I get to spend time with, and good quality people that I've, that's evolved over the years. But I'm just fortunate that I look forward to my personal time as much as I look forward to my business time. And you find that, I don't know about you guys, you find that being busy is an excuse, but being productive is never an excuse. So I'm more productive now than I've ever been in my entire career because I know that I only got 10, 12, 14 hours a day to work on it. And I'm up at 5, I'm in bed by 9:30, and I spend 3 to 4 quality hours with my wife every single day, and weekends. I'm usually, I can get my work done before she gets up. So, but as much as I turn work off. You don't turn work off. Yes, it's hard, and there's situations where you don't, but just turn it off and do the things that you enjoy.
Well, we're on the same schedule, so that's cool. Same frequency there.
Yeah.
If I wake up at 5, I'm also back in bed by 9:30, but that's AM, not PM.
Yeah.
Just sort of one last sort of top up on that one, Sean. How do you feed your mind? Do you have any books, pods, anything that you're using to support your development that you could recommend to people?
Yeah, I mean, I have a book always ongoing. No matter what it is. It could be an investments book, could be a growth book, could be just a autobiography. I'm not typically I don't read stories. I'm not a big stories guy. Although I do have to hear stories quite often because my wife is enamored with true crime. So,
everyone else.
I'm basically the recipient of every true crime case that's ever happened in history. So I get my information through her from that. But I typically always have a book going of some kind, and I like podcasts. I listen to your guys' podcast. I listen to a few others, more sports-based stuff. I kind of like to keep my podcast light, just because I am fully engaged at what I'm doing all the time. That if I have something going on in the background, it's a little bit more fluffy. Love the Foreplay podcast that Barstool puts out with those guys. Just being amateur golfers, I get a kick out of them. And then golf instruction type stuff. Honestly, if you looked at my podcast history, it's pretty nerdy.
What and I guess just on the way out of here, how can people find out more about your serial entrepreneur? So you got a few things, so here's a chance to list them off.
Yeah, I mean, my passion and my future is in FTR Golf and BigBuckGolf.com. So both of which you can check out on the website. So FTRGolf.com. We're going to continue to post updates. We're going to kind of start a build blog here in coming days. Like I said, our first 55 units of the golf carts and 5 of the 4-seaters have arrived. We're just waiting on batteries. So we got to do batteries and programming. So you can follow us on LinkedIn. We're going to have an Instagram and Facebook page. So between those two, and then BigBuckGolf.com is live, has been running. All of our information is on there. Our online store is on there. But between that and our social media channels, so the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the LinkedIns, we're getting better at creating more updates. But when it's just just 2 of us to kind of get rolling, we're doing our best. Things are going to continue to ramp up in terms of information out to the public. And we look forward to everybody joining the ride.
Awesome. Well, can't wait to check out a unit. Best of luck. And thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to meet you, JP. And thanks again, Seth.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode.
If you like what you heard today and you'd like to tap into your inner wisdom, check us out on thebizdojo.com, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook.
Or send us a message for a free discovery session to coaching@thebizdojo.com.
We hope to hear from you soon. See you next week.